Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. I hope you're having a good day. I'm Eoin Devereux, news and sports reporter with the Banner Press, welcoming you once again to our program right here on NAC TV. Joined this week by Casper Wehrhahn. Casper, good to have you in here this week.
Good to be here once again, and as always, lots to get through.
It's a shorter paper this week, just 16 pages, but it's packed to capacity with a lot of interesting news and content. Before we get into that, though, I just want to talk a little bit about something, the story behind the stories, as it were. And I got a little story for you about some of the goings-on at a local weekly community paper. We recently got a couple phone calls from individuals, and I'm not going to say who and in regard to, because it would be disrespectful to the organizations, the community, and some of the festivities and events that go on within the community. So I'm not going to say specifically what it is. I'm just going to say that I've been doing this for about 18 years as a journalist, as a reporter, and over that period of time you get used to certain things. A former boss of mine said, until you've been physically threatened or threatened with a lawsuit, you're not a real journalist. That was the mindset back in the day, and I've had both happen to me on a couple occasions. And you know, Casper, anytime that's happened, actually no follow-through. I've never seen any follow-through on either of those in any way, shape, or form.
Well, that's good.
But again, that's sort of the old school mindset. This is new times, or at least you'd hope it's new times. And we got a couple phone calls about some coverage on an event and some festivities and whatnot that were going on, and they weren't happy with what we did. Despite the fact that we were out and about, we weren't able to get to all the events that were going on, but we were able to get to some of them. But sometimes that's just, you know, everybody thinks their thing is the most important thing in the world. And that's fine. That's a good thing to have. I mean, you should feel that way. If it means something to you, treat it as such. But at the same time, if it doesn't get that same treatment from others, don't take it out on others. And we got a couple calls, individual who was very unhappy with the coverage of certain things. If you want to take it out on a reporter, that's fine. I can handle it. Again, I've been threatened multiple times. It's part of the job. It's an unfortunate part of the job. But where I do have an issue, and this is why I bring this up, is when you are threatening towards support staff. Representation at the front door. All they do is support staff for what we do as journalists. They don't decide what goes in the newspaper. They don't decide what pictures are used. They don't decide what words are used. So for someone to be disrespectful to those individuals, to question their credibility, individuals that have nothing to do with what goes on the page, that I don't stand for. Quite honestly, I ended up having a discussion with this gentleman, and again, I don't know the gentleman. I don't know the individual. But I had words with that gentleman. I said point blank, if you have something to say, you say it to me or to Ken Waddell, all right? You don't take out your frustrations on what we do or what we don't do on somebody who doesn't deserve it. That just, it steams me no end. Like, I can take it. I've been called every name in the book in this job, and about half of them probably were correct, you know, in the grand scheme of things. But, you know, these people that support the Banner Press in terms of answering the phones, in terms of looking after other aspects of this business, do not deserve to be disrespected in that way, shape, or form. So, like I said, I'm just going to publicly voice this. It's not respectful. And it's just... I think that's about all I can say on that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not going to name names about what this was, because the other people involved in the festivities and the events and the news, as it were, don't respect that to be heaped upon them. So that's all I got to say about that for the most part.
Yeah, it's a very unfortunate thing that that it happened. And I mean, if you do have an issue with something in the paper, or perhaps a mistake that was in an article that a specific reporter did. Hopefully you're still contacting us in a calm and respectful manner. That would be the better course of action, I think, for all parties involved. We certainly are happy to correct anything that we're able to, and sometimes we do need some help with getting out to different events. We've only got so many bodies and we have a large coverage area, but we're always trying to do what we can, and if there's any way that we're able to correct something that we did genuinely mess up on, then we're happy to do that if people reach out to us. That's
right. And again, if we're wrong, we're wrong. We'll accept that, and we apologize for that. If we can't get out to certain events, it's unfortunately, we want to be able to be out at each and every event. But it's difficult sometimes. And the worst part about this as well, Casper, is the week this happened, I was on vacation, so I was gone for the whole week, And we had arrangements were made for people to be there, but things come up. People get under the weather for one circumstance or another, unable to, technical issues, whatever the case may be. We're human beings. We're trying to work with this as best we can. So plans were made, but plans had to be changed. And just if you want to take it out on me, fine. I prefer not to. I would prefer not to be yelled at in the grand scheme of things. But if you need somebody to yell at, we're the person. I'm the person. If you want to yell at, but don't yell at the support staff. Don't take out what you perceive our actions to be on them. That's just, no. Be better than that. And we'll try and be better as well. So let's shift gears and be better. Let's talk about what's actually in the paper this week. On our front page, we got a picture. Kira Patterson went down, got permission as well. Nowadays, you do have to sort of check on these things, get permission when it comes to students and young people. And we were able to get permission for back to school. Everybody's getting back to school. It's that time of year. I wish we'd come up with a more original headline, but quite honestly, there's only so many ways you can say back to school, isn't there?
Exactly. So it's a very sort of, plain Jane title, you could say. But the shot is very good. I quite like the photo that Kira was able to get. And you'll have to pick up a hard copy of the paper to get a really good look at it. But it just feels very dynamic. And the expression on these students' face there coming off the bus is just fantastic.
Yeah, our students are returning back to the classroom. Though there is one student from the area who is returning to the classroom, but is going to get a little bit of a break to be able to do a little bit of a road trip very shortly. And Casper, you've got the details on that story, don't you?
I do, yes. I forget how I heard about this. It might have been something that was emailed to me directly, or perhaps Christine passed it on. She picks up a few stories along the way from a few different sources, but I was able to get in touch with this individual from Gladstone, and I apologize if I mispronounced the last name. It's been a while since I've heard it, but it's Sveina Bjarnason. Age 14 right now. She's been involved with the 4-H club for about 8 years. For a lot of that, it's been the Neepawa 4-H club, and there was also a year she was involved with the Gladstone Handiworkers on top of that. So a lot of 4-H experience there, and she will actually be going to Toronto for a competition on November 5th. It will be the Royal Agricultural Fair, and it's a big national event, so she'll be competing there in a speaking competition specifically.
That is fantastic. And again, the Royal Agricultural Fair, you hear about that a lot because the Western Manitoba Agricultural Fair has a royal distinction, and it is the second largest in Canada that has a royal distinction. Obviously, Toronto has the largest, and when we mean large, we do mean vast. It is a tremendous event, just the sheer size and scope of it. So to be able to be selected and be able to take part in something like that, that is a tremendous feather in the cap.
Absolutely. It's a very big event, and Sveina is one of just 2 people that are going to the Toronto Fair from Manitoba. So it's a pretty big she's done a lot of different showcasings for projects before at different levels, but this is her first time competing at this fair, so it'll be a very unique experience, lots of networking that she'll be able to do.
I imagine it'd probably be tough. I wonder how she's going to deal with maybe the butterflies of doing an event of this sheer size and shape. But when it comes to these types of things, that's the type of thing you've got to sort of plan for and work around. So hopefully she'll be able to do something with that.
Exactly, yeah. And she's done well in local circles, of course, as we've seen before in the paper with some of the stats that we've gotten from 4-H clubs here. So she'll be representing those clubs and 4-H Manitoba, really, once she goes to that stage. I think she'll do really well.
And once again, most likely, very most likely, we will be doing follow-up on that once it's all said and done. Hopefully we'll be able to report back some positive news. And even, placements in something like this aren't nearly as important. They're nice, but just the opportunity to be a part of something like this is a big get as well. So very much looking forward to seeing how this plays out later on this year. All right, speaking of later on this year, there are some things that are going on. And I got this call and an email regarding this. And I got to admit, at first glance, when I looked at this, I was still in municipal politics mode, because we've been talking a lot in the office about the upcoming municipal election and just who's going to be running, where they're going to be running and whatnot. So I got a call, and it was Jody Byram. And she was talking about, I'm running, and I got to admit, the first 30 seconds or so, the hamster didn't roll on the wheel, because I was thinking municipal politics, and I thought, well, that's unusual, running for municipal. But okay, all right. And then I received the email, Casper, and it was that Jody Byram, who you may be familiar with, has been a representative and aide, a constituent assistant to MLA Eileen Clark for many years, is actually going to be running to take over the position of MLA. Before she gets to that point in time, though, she must run as the candidate for the Progressive Conservative Party of Manitoba. Eileen Clark was a member of the PC Party, still is a member. As you know, if you're a loyal reader of the Banner Press, you know that she will be stepping down at the end of her term. And when the next election occurs next year, Jody hopes to be the PC representative at that event. She is the first, in fact, to sort of formally announce that she will be running for that position. They're still putting together some of the details, the process of what it's going to require to nominate that individual. She's very much looking forward, though, to getting and hitting the campaign trail. She does have experience, obviously, as an aide to Eileen Clark's office. She knows the day-to-day rigors of the job because, I mean, she's essentially been on the road with Eileen just as much. And so it's going to be interesting, not just the process to see who else comes out and who gets involved with this. Because this is still a conservative stronghold. I know the numbers start to change over the years, but for the most part, both on a provincial level and on a federal level, this is pretty still blue. So we'll see how many individuals come forward for this nomination. And again, we're looking forward to seeing other parties step up and see what they put forward, because it's going to be a very interesting election. Just because we've been a blue riding in the past, with everything that's been going on in Manitoba over the last few years, nothing's guaranteed. So we'll see how the water sways and ebbs and flows, as it were. So. Yeah,
it'll definitely be interesting to see how things specifically play out for Jody, and then of course, with everything happening or that has happened, how things might change here and throughout the province for in regards to how people are voting.
That's right. Now, if you want to get more details and some quotes from Jody on that, you can find the story. It's on page 2 of this week's 16-page edition of the Banner Press. Obviously, because of the short Labor Day weekend, we didn't have to fill nearly as many pages. We appreciate that little break every once in a while, but next week probably going to be back to a full 20, and then B sections everywhere. Just so many pages for the weeks and months ahead. But this was a nice little short week for us. We definitely did appreciate that. But we still did a lot of work in covering some things, and this is a story Kira Patterson was able to track down, getting some local perspective on the recent announcement of the minimum wage increase in Manitoba. Now it's in and around $11.95. It is going up to $13.50 in October. There's going to be rising again in the spring to $14.50. And once again, finally culminating with a $15 minimum wage in October 2023. A lot of individuals I know are very much pleased with that. Because I know a few individuals, they're still working paycheck to paycheck. And with the inflation levels that have skyrocketed over the last 6-7 months, every little bit helps. So they are very much looking forward to seeing that increase. But that increase, there's another side to it, to that coin. And that's how it affects businesses. So Kira reached out to several local businesses just to see what their reaction was. Unfortunately, for the most part, most local businesses didn't have a reaction. They didn't get back to us. So Kira was able to get some quotes from representation from Chamber of Commerce throughout the province, just our local one, as well as representation from the Manitoba Chamber of Commerce, just to see how this plays out and how it impacts any business and any business owner. Like, that's the real juggling act, Casper, when it comes to something like this. We as workers and employees always appreciate, when the wages go up. I'm old enough, quite honestly, to remember when minimum wage was $5.25. So, but that was a while ago. But again, for all the positives that something creates, it can create negatives. That's that yin and yang of business, of capitalism.
Yeah. There's certainly a lot of struggles that come with the capitalist structure that we're so ingrained in as a society today. The wage increase is definitely going to help a lot of people. I think it'll even help me out a little bit there. It's tough for a lot of things, getting food, being able to afford housing, especially housing, like just to try and rent something, you typically have to, have a housemate or two to even just get like a small apartment, because it's just so tough to get something that's affordable, especially on your own. And, with businesses, I don't have a whole lot of experience from like a business owner standpoint, but I did see in the article there that some chamber members throughout Manitoba have noted that they're not going to get back to pre-pandemic revenue until like another 6 months has passed. That's their estimate anyway. And thankfully here, thankfully, it might just be that they haven't heard anything yet, because they haven't had a good look at it yet, the business owners. But the local chamber here so far hasn't heard any concerns about, business owners being able to, afford to be able to do this. So that's hopefully a good sign. Hopefully it's not just because they haven't heard anything yet about concerns. Hopefully that is something that they're going to be able to manage quite well, and there won't be any issues going forward.
That's right, because again, businesses are a backbone of each and every community, local businesses vitally so. So hopefully when it comes to something like this, there needs to be governments that step up. And I'm going to spotlight this onto every aspect. Whether you are a conservative on a provincial level, you need to step up. Whether you are a liberal on a federal level, you need to step up. Both these have failed in different, interesting sort of ways in terms of helping businesses through the pandemic, through the significant and sudden increase to the inflation rate that they have to deal with for purchase of goods and services to sell on a retail manner. So there's a lot of pressure that they got to deal with. And this story doesn't delve too deep into that, but hopefully there'll be some ramifications from this, and they'll see the bigger picture and start helping accordingly. All right, so let's get a little more fun. Let's get away from sort of the details, the nuts and bolts, the dollars and cents, and talk about events that recently happened This is an event we covered a few weeks ago. A portion of it we covered, the festivities in and around the Kelwood Agricultural Fair. We have an update as well this week. Very appreciative of the Kelwood Agricultural Society sending those details. We try to get out to each and every event that we can. Most we do, some we don't. And but we were out in Kelwood for a few of the festivities. Blah. But yeah, they sent us some information, some pictures. You can find that. It's on page 7 of this week's edition. Kelwood Ag Society always does such a tremendous job of hyping themselves up, getting them, you know, the information out there, trying to get the information out there. It's always great. So if you're supportive of stuff like that, hopefully you were out at that event. You were able to support them in that way, and hopefully you will continue to support them in the future, because we can get back to a version of normal. Obviously the pandemic we're still dealing with, but we're trying to work around it as best we can. And that means returning to events like this, and hopefully the Ag Society is going to be able to continue to sort of do things like this. Well, at least I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, activities like this, they mean a lot for individuals and communities as a whole. It gives people something to get out and do, socialize, you know, just, you know, be a person, We're social creatures for the most part. Maybe me a little less so, but still socialization is an important part of, you know, our health, and, you know, being able to get out into the wilderness, so to speak, and do things like this means a great deal for everyone.
That's right. Whether you're traveling from Neepawa to Kelwood, or whether you're traveling from Britain to Neepawa, segueing seamlessly, Casper, into our next story. A gentleman, an individual who came to Neepawa, wanted to do a bit of a pilgrimage, as it were. Habdi Jamak, I do apologize if I mispronounced the name, a gentleman who currently resides in England, but is originally from Somaliland, wanted to come to Neepawa to learn a little bit more and to see the hometown of Margaret Lawrence. An avid fan of Margaret Lawrence and her works through the years. Sometimes because we're here and we're local and we know all the history, we sort of forget the significance of Margaret Lawrence had on such a global grand scale. This is a perfect example of it. This gentleman came and came to Neepawa to sort of see this. It's one of those stories we've just sort of fell upon. We were fortunate enough to have it fall into our lap. Wonderful to be able to share it.
Yeah, it was a really interesting story to read. I was aware before that Margaret Lawrence had lived in a few different areas, including over in Africa there. And, you know, typically with Margaret Lawrence, especially here, we usually push the local angle, which is, you know, the Manawaka related stuff, which is the fictional town based off of Neepawa. But, you know, she had books, I think the first 4 of her books were discussing a lot of stuff from over in Somaliland and a couple other areas over there. So to, you know, for them to come here and, you know, share that perspective of how Margaret Lawrence has impacted the area, and then just share their culture as well in general, is incredible.
If you want to learn a little bit more about that, that's one of those stories I do hope you most definitely take a couple minutes of your time and read. You can find it on page 8 of this week's edition of the paper. These are the types of things you're really glad to be able to sort of get dropped into your lap and be able to track down and to share with you, the reader. All right, we're winding down a little bit, but there's still a couple things we definitely want to give a couple minutes to. One of which is a little bit of house cleaning and renovations for the Neepawa Titans down at the Yellowhead Arena. The season is on the cusp of getting underway, but that didn't mean that things were slow for them down at the Yellowhead Center. During the summer, they were doing so much work, doing some upgrades to the dressing room area and the surrounding rooms around it. You can see a few pictures. They're on page 9 of this week's paper. And there was a lot of work put in. I had an opportunity to speak with Derek Pearson. He is the trainer and as well a representative with the Neepawa Titans. I believe he is the a hockey operations manager as well with them. So he walked me through the entire process of planning to make these upgrades and going through and following through on them. These upgrades include an actual expansion of the second floor. If you've ever been in the dressing room, and maybe most people haven't, but you go in there, there was a little room there, and it was a little half cubby, sort of a loft up there with these really steep steps, Casper, where it's like you're almost climbing. Like I got to the age where it's like, nope, no, I'm not walking those stairs because I don't want to walk down those stairs. But fortunately, they fixed it. They've made normal human stairs for all of us now to be able to walk, and they expanded the loft. It's twice as big as it was. That gives them so much more space for their equipment, their jerseys, their athletic sort of things that they need for game sticks, tape, the whole 9 yards. It opened up the main floor as well for them, a little bit of expansion of space down there. What's kind of interesting as well, Casper, and you'll see the picture also in the paper, is they set up a VIP lounge. So it's going to be like this little special party place for games and all that for all the very important people. So it's going to be kind of cool, I think.
Yeah, it's awesome to see the changes that they've made in those areas. And in particular, I'm curious about the VIP lounge. I'm having a hard time right now envisioning quite where it is, but I'd be interested to go and find that out and just see exactly how it's laid out there.
That's right, and you can see it either in this week's Banner and Press, or you can go down and check out a game for the Neepawa Titans. As I said, as we speak, their training camp has come to a conclusion, and they have started their preseason games. They will be hitting the ice in terms of their first regular season game in about just over a week's time. It's a Saturday night. If I remember correctly, I think it's going to be, let's see, 11, 12, I don't remember the date right now. It's a Saturday night. You can check a calendar. I don't have a calendar in front of me right now. And you can see them. They're going to be hosting the Dauphin Kings. If you're not able to be down there live, however, to be able to watch it, you can check it out on Hockey TV live over the internet, or you can tune in right here to NAC TV. They broadcast the games each and every week, so they'll be broadcasting that one on a slight delay, so you can check out that action. It's going to be fantastic. There's so much other stuff we could talk about. I'm sorry to say we are running short. Let's just, in one quick minute here, Casper, give us a preview of this other little hidden gem you found.
Sure, yes. So really quickly, because we don't have much time, you find weird things or ordinary things in weird places in old houses. It's just sort of inevitable, it seems. Even during simple renovations like tearing up some, floor coverings that are peeling away into closets. And that's exactly what happened at my house again. My dad found a bunch of old tickets, one for a track and field meet and several for the Neepawa Theater. There was 2 different variations for that, just a standard ticket and then a complimentary one, which I think appears to be sponsored by the care business that was here. So definitely check that out on page 15. It was a really weird thing to find, but very interesting.
That's interesting. It is. These little hidden discoveries in history are a great little thing, and we love being able to share that with you. And we love you sharing some of your experiences or some of your ideas with us. In order to do that, always be in touch with us, but be nice. You can contact us at 476-3401. That's the number we can be reached at, or at news@neepawabanner.com. If you have story ideas or suggestions, as I've said, even if you disagree with what we have to say or what we have or haven't covered, we'd like to hear from you. So you can call us, once again, 476-3401, the number we can be reached at, or news@neepawabanner.com. So that's the story behind the story for this week. Always appreciate you tuning in, and great to have you in here this week, Casper. Always a pleasure.
Always happy to be here, and I look forward to the next one.
And we hope you'll be back for the next one too, right here on NAC TV and the story behind the stories. Have a good day.